The first delicacies from the garden are certainly asparagus, rhubarb or chives, if you sowed them in previous years. I am already eating my asparagus with scrambled eggs and it was delicious, and this is what motivates me to continue working. But there are such guys among vegetables, true sprint masters. You sow, blink and you can harvest. Fast-growing vegetables, or those with a short vegetation period. These are also vegetables for the so-called pre-crop and catch crop. Here are the top 5 super fast vegetables. Ready in 20 days, which you can, and even should, sow several times during the season. As standard, of course, there will be more than 5 of them, and I will probably forget some more. But nothing stands in the way of you adding a few of your sprint vegetables in the comment. When the gardening season is approaching, it is easy to say that it is only February, we still have plenty of time. Then the nice weather appears and suddenly April comes, and we are behind. So to the shore. First to finish will definitely be the radish. Radish, very quickly sprouting and ripening, you can harvest them within days of sowing. These crunchy, crispy roots are among the fastest growing vegetables, ready in just 4 weeks from sowing. In fact, all of the vegetables I'm going to mention today will be ready to harvest in just 1 or 2 months. That's fast. Common vegetables like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers take between 60 and 90 days to go from seed to harvest. Basically 2 to 3 months, which may seem like a long time. So to help us fill that gap while we wait for our tomatoes to form, it's a good idea to plant radishes. A variety like the pink lady radish only takes about 25 days to go from seed to harvest. That's less than a month. When planting radishes, I suggest direct sowing them, like all root vegetables. This is a great time to sow them because radishes love the spring chill, but not only that, because you can also sow them in the fall. At this time of year, they are also much less susceptible to flea beetle attacks and, of course, they are very easy to grow. Sow the seeds directly into well-watered soil at a distance of 1 centimeter. The sowing period for radishes is March, April, May until the 3rd of this month. Note: if spring is dry, May sowing of radishes can be unreliable, and August and September until the 15th of this month. Radishes like the cold. They react strongly to the length of the day. Therefore, if the day is long, instead of binding the roots, the radish shoots into inflorescences. For this reason, it is important to adhere to the sowing dates for radishes. The sowing depth is 1 centimeter. Sowing too deep causes radishes to have distorted roots. In spring, radishes can be sown in the same row as vegetables that take a long time to sprout. These could be carrots, parsnips, or parsley. Radishes also grow very well in containers. They are an ideal houseplant. When you are done, cover them, and if conditions are dry, water the radishes, and in no time, within a few days, you will have these beautiful fresh shoots. Harvest them while they are young to enjoy them while they are still tender and crunchy. After about a week you will see a lot of growth, and at this point we are almost a third of the way to harvest. When it comes to radishes, we are growing them for their roots, which means we need good, loose soil that also drains well so the roots can form easily. We also want to make sure we are giving them a fertilizer that is not too high in nitrogen, because if we give them a fertilizer that is high in nitrogen, they will focus on leaf growth and not root growth. The soil under the radishes should not be freshly limed. Lime increases the pH of the soil, and this encourages radish scab. Radish disease is often caused by poor soil. For example, if the soil is too acidic, they will wilt despite watering. So I suggest you use a natural, all-purpose, balanced fertilizer. This way, our plant focuses on both leaf and root growth, so we're not adding a lot of nitrogen and getting all that leaf growth at the expense of root growth. Ideally, we want to get a staggered harvest of radishes that will keep coming. To achieve this, we could either plant a round of radishes every week, or we could plant varieties that mature at different times. For example, on the same day, we could plant pink lady radishes, which take 25 days to grow, and on the same day, we could plant something like zlata radishes, which take 35 days to grow. So, we're essentially getting a staggered harvest by simply planting varieties that mature at different times. We can take advantage of a fast-growing crop and use their early maturity to their advantage. This is what I like to do with my peppers. I plant my peppers in the garden, transplanting them around May 15th, after the frost, so basically the space I'm going to plant my peppers in is a gap. After I harvest the radishes, I can put the peppers in there. This way, we're essentially getting a double crop from the same space. Early radish harvests are great, but who wants to eat just a bowl full of radishes? We need fast-growing greens to go with them, so this fast-growing crop is a great option. There's no salad without lettuce, right? So we're going to throw some lettuce in with our radishes. Lettuce, it can be sown directly into the ground and provides a quick harvest of leaves. Lettuce is a classic cool season crop, and loose leaf varieties, meaning they don't form a tight head, are ideal for sowing for a quick harvest. Depending on the weather where you are and how quickly summer ends, you can expect to be harvesting leaves in as little as 40 or even 30 days from planting. However, what I love most about lettuce is how easy it is to grow. Today I'm going to plant this pretty mind-blowing mix of lettuce here. There are several types of leaf lettuce: oak, leaf, and fiddle leaf. Each type has many varieties, including very old, green, and reddish leaves. All leaf lettuces are similar in taste to romaine, but the leaves are more delicate. This is a cut and regrow mix of the best loose leaf lettuces, ideal for growing in rows like this one. I have marked the rows and they are just over 6 inches apart. Now, I will water them well as they grow, and the young leaves can be harvested in the same way, cut and regrown, by pulling a single leaf from each plant and then leaving the rest to grow. When growing lettuce for a quick harvest, we want to focus on loose leaf varieties. These varieties will allow us to harvest them much more quickly than head varieties. Tango lettuce is a great loose leaf variety that I love growing and is great for cutting and regrowing. We can start harvesting in as little as 25 to 30 days. Lettuce needs light to germinate, so you don't want to bury it deep. It just needs a flash of light, but if you bury it deep, it may not germinate. Once the lettuce seeds have germinated, thin them out. You can also start your lettuce as a seedling. This will be the same process when you plant them outside. I prefer to start my lettuce indoors and then transplant them outside. This allows me to get an even earlier start to the season. I start them indoors, and as soon as the weather warms up, I can transplant them directly into the garden. That way, they are about a week old when they are in the ground and can start growing right away. Here's a quick tip. Vegetables that we grow just for their greens will grow faster if we give them a boost of nitrogen. To do this, we can take some bone meal and sprinkle it on our plants after transplanting. Then mix it into the top few inches of soil and water it in. You can also use a slurry like nettle. This will give them an extra boost of nitrogen and allow them to explode with growth. For greens, this is a good idea, but be careful when adding extra nitrogen to crops that we grow for their fruit or roots. If we add too much nitrogen, the crop will focus mainly on producing leaves instead of fruit and roots, but when it comes to something like lettuce, this extra boost of nitrogen is ideal. The main advantage of growing greens like lettuce is that we are growing them just for their leaves, so unlike tomatoes or cabbage, we don't have to wait for them to reach full maturity before we can harvest them. With loose leaf lettuce varieties, the advantage is that you start them when they're young, so when they have about 5 or 7 leaves, you want to go out and pick a few of them and then let the rest grow back. This is called cutting, and then you let the leaves grow back and re-emerge. Lettuce and radishes are nice, but they won't make a full-bodied salad. It would be nice to add a fast-growing plant that can give us some flavor, something with a nutty flavor. I'm talking about arugula. Arugula, like lettuce, it grows quickly and can be picked fresh for salads. This is another absolute sprinter that will be ready to harvest in about 5 weeks and will give you some nice tangy leaves to add to salads and sandwiches. Arugula, or rocket, loves the cool and will grow well even in partial shade. Now just scatter the seeds this time over the raked soil like this. A great alternative or addition to arugula is mustard greens, which have similarly tangy leaves and grow just as quickly. Arugula will probably win this race because this one may be the fastest from seed to harvest. We are talking about 20 days and we will be able to snack on greens. Everything about arugula is fast. It germinates quickly in just a few days, grows quickly but also shoots and goes to seed quickly as the summer heat arrives. When dealing with small seeds like arugula, I find it easiest to start them indoors in a controlled environment. And when the weather warms up, I can grab the arugula and transplant it into the garden. After transplanting, I add a little bone meal to help speed up growth. As I mentioned earlier, arugula shoots up quickly when the summer heat arrives. For this reason, it's a good idea to harvest early and often. When I see, say, 5 or 6 leaves, I'll start going out and harvesting my young arugula. Caterpillars like to nibble on arugula. If caterpillars start appearing on young arugula plants, I recommend adding a product called Bt. Bacillus thuringiensis. This is an organic substance made from naturally occurring bacteria in the soil that fights pests. You can also add Felty, a product based on the predatory nematodes. Dinurnoma felshi is an ecological and safe solution that allows you to effectively combat the larvae. You can spray it on your plants and theoretically you can go out and eat them right away. But I definitely recommend washing the leaves before eating anything, especially if you're fertilizing with liquid manure or adding beneficial bacteria or nematodes to the soil. Because the point is, we want to be able to go out and eat these leaves. We don't just want to grow them to feed the caterpillars, do we? Radishes, lettuce, arugula, this is really starting to come together. You know the old saying that sometimes less is more, but when it comes to salad, sometimes more is more. Let's get another fast-growing plant to add to our salad bowl, and I mean spinach. When I think of spinach, I sometimes imagine giant leaves of Olympic spinach or giant winter spinach. But in reality, we could go out and start harvesting our spinach while it's still young, just 20 to 30 days after we put the seeds in the ground. That's quick. Spinach, while it takes a little longer to mature than radishes or lettuce, it's still a pretty fast performer. As we know, it's absolutely packed with nutrients and loves the cooler weather of both spring and early fall, so now is a really great time to plant it. However, look for varieties that are described as fast growing to ensure you get a quick harvest. Spinach can easily be sown directly into the ground, where it will grow about 1 centimeter deep in rows every 30 centimeters. Now I will need to water them well at the beginning, and once the leaves are big enough to grow into a leaf, I can start harvesting. Spinach is a cut and regrow leaf, which means that as long as I only pick a few leaves from each plant, taking the outermost leaves, the plant will continue to grow, producing even more. When planting spinach, direct sowing is the best option. Plants with a long taproot do not like to be transplanted. This is why our root crops, such as radishes, beets, and carrots, like to be direct sown. When it comes to our spinach, direct sowing is the best option, directly into the ground. Matador spinach can be sown in spring, summer, and before winter. It likes places after cabbage and large doses of compost. Matador spinach germinates in 4 to 7 days, already at a temperature of 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. Spinach can be sown, winter and spring, as soon as the ground thaws by April 15th summer, last week of July and first week of August autumn, September or later. Spinach does not like fresh liming, dry, hard, very acidic and very alkaline soil. Watering, moderate spinach has poorly developed roots and at the same time a large mass of leaves. It is sensitive to drying out. It should always have slightly moist soil. A bit of dill here and there in a salad is always welcome, so let's add some dill to it. Garden dill, it grows quickly and can be used as a spice or an addition to salads. It can be sown almost all year round. Garden dill is a great, strongly scented spice and herb for insomnia and has low requirements. In the spring-summer season, it is best to sow garden dill every 2 to 3 weeks to ensure continuous harvest. Dill seeds overwinter very well in the ground. Garden dill also self-sows, but is not expansive. Dill germinates at a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius of soil. Green leaves appear after 14 to 20 days. Harvest, about 50 days after sowing. Garden dill can be grown green, for example for young leaves. Then the cultivation time is short. When garden dill is grown for seeds, cultivation takes the longest. Note: in times of heat and drought, garden dill tends to bloom prematurely. Such plants should be harvested and eaten as soon as possible. They will no longer sprout new leaves. Location: sunny garden dill grows very poorly in the shade. Dill should not be sown next to or after vegetables and herbs from the celery family, to which it also belongs. These include angelica, caraway, garden lovage, parsnip, celery, celeriac. Young seedlings are sensitive to frost, so it is worth covering them with white fleece. Onion chives. This guy grows practically everywhere, both in the fridge and on the windowsill, so why not plant them in the ground when they sprout and cut them for sandwiches or scrambled eggs? Onions are on my list because everyone needs a bit of chives goodness. All you have to do is plant them in the ground and they will grow, and you just cut the chives regularly. Leaf beet or Swiss chard, you could say it's 2 in 1. Swiss chard will always be a winner in my garden because of its juicy leaves, which can be harvested for many months. You can harvest delicate young beets as early as 50 days after sowing, and the beautiful greens, beet leaves, even earlier. The leaves look absolutely sublime with their beautiful red-purple veins, really pretty on a plate. Oh, and did I mention they taste delicious too? Sow the seeds about 1 inch or 2 apart and about 1 inch deep. Now I'll cover them, water them well, and when they've grown, thin them out to about 3 inches apart. Now the young leaves are ready to harvest when they're a few inches tall, and I only take 1 or 2 leaves from each plant at a time, so you don't strip them of all that green, which will help the little roots swell. And then the little roots are good to harvest when they're about the size of a table tennis ball. But the leaf beet is a different story. It's less demanding and more resilient than the beetroot. The leaf beet is grown for food and garden decoration. It has beautiful leaves in a variety of colors. The leaf beet is more frost-resistant than its relative, the beetroot. It withstands frost to -4 degrees Celsius to germinate. Leaf beet requires a temperature of 8 degrees Celsius. Leaf beet is generally sown earlier than beetroot. In the first half of July, leaf beet is sown as a catch crop, for example after harvesting onions and peas. Leaf beet seeds are sown directly into the ground. Seed spacing for this plant is 15 to 20 centimeters. It is best to sow seeds individually. If leaf beet germinates too densely, they must be replanted. Extra beetroot can be transplanted to other places. Leaf beet is sown in rows every 40 to 50 centimeters. Beet sowing depth is 2 to 3 centimeters. Harvest from June to autumn. We eat leaf petioles and leaves for soups, salads, stews, juices and vegetable chips, for garden decoration. Leaf beet roots are small and inedible. Leaf beet grows quickly. The first harvest of leaves is 8 to 10 weeks after sowing, depending on the weather. The best taste is young leaves and leaf petioles. You can also pull out leaf beet with roots and only then cut off all the leaves. But it is a plant for cutting, so we cut the leaves again and it regenerates throughout the season. Location: sunny. Leaf beet grows best in airy places. The wind protects it from aphid attacks and beet tassel. Leaf beet grows poorly in partial shade and not at all in the full shade. It is beneficial to grow them after onion, cucurbit, cabbage vegetables, especially if they grew on manure. You should avoid sowing beet after spinach and other root vegetables, due to nematodes. Basil and coriander are good sprinters with which we can enrich the taste of dishes. Basil seeds are sown in March or April, in pots or in a seedbed. Common basil can also be sown later, until August, then it grows smaller and does not bloom before winter. The basil seeds retain their ability to germinate for a long time, up to 5 years. After sowing in May, you can harvest the leaves from the beginning of July, and when sowing in June, from mid-August. Common basil needs a lot of sun all year round. In the ground, it should be planted in sunny places. It is worth planting basil in a vegetable garden. Many vegetables really like its company. For example, broccoli, onions, and cauliflower grow better next to basil. If common basil is grown in a pot, it is best to take it out to the terrace or balcony in the summer. Frost resistance is down to -5°C, but note, only hardened, partially woody common basil can survive a small frost. Growing cilantro without watering is difficult, but possible with proper preparation of the soil and site. It is important that the soil is permeable and well drained so that the cilantro does not rot. In addition, it is a good idea to provide cilantro with adequate lighting and protect it from excessive sun and wind. Cilantro is a fast-growing plant, so it is recommended to sow new batches every few weeks. You can harvest cilantro leaves about 3 to 4 weeks after sowing. Germination time. Cilantro germinates in 7 to 21 days. Time to full growth. Cilantro reaches full growth after about 4-6 weeks. Leaf harvest period for cilantro. Leaves can be harvested about 3 to 4 weeks after sowing. Regular pruning of leaves promotes dense growth and extends the harvest period. Dwarf green beans. Sown in May, we will harvest in July, and when it does fruit, it will yield really abundantly, provided that we regularly harvest young, unripe pods, so you may not keep up with harvesting. Beans germinate after 3 to 10 days, but if it is warm. Bean seeds germinate best at a temperature of 15°C of soil. When to sow beans: May, from the 15th of this month. June, July, but only the first week of this month. Beans are usually sown in the ground in a vegetable garden, after radishes, lettuce, early potatoes. Sowing depth is 3 to 5 centimeters. Larger bean seeds are sown deeper, and smaller ones, shallower. Harvest: July to August, in good weather like warm, rain from time to time. The first harvest for the so-called green pods can often be done at the end of June. Location: sunny. Beans grow very poorly in the shade. The slightest frost will destroy them, so don't rush to sow. Last, but that doesn't mean the slowest. Kale, but for young leaves. Because if we have to wait for its mature form of large leaves, it will actually be the last at the finish line. Kale is one of those superfoods that is ideally suited to growing in colder conditions. Although the plants need a little longer to fully mature, you can enjoy young kale leaves, like these for salads, after just 30 days. This variety is Red Russian and is simply beautiful, but I think we should sow more. Harvest the nice and small ones for salads or for frying, and with regular harvesting they should yield until winter. Now all we need to take the flavor and nutritional value of this salad to the next level is some kale. Kale is one of those plants that everyone should always be growing. It's packed with nutrients. It's easy to grow. It has a great flavor, and it's also a biennial, which means it won't shoot up in the heat of summer like many of our annuals: spinach, arugula, lettuce, and more. You can direct sow kale if you want, or you can start your own seeds in pots indoors. It germinates quickly and grows quickly. One of the reasons I like growing kale indoors is because I like to start my kale earlier indoors than it would germinate outdoors. So once the weather starts to warm up a bit and that really hard frost passes, I can take my kale that's already sprouted and transplant it into the garden so it can start growing right away. The cool thing about kale is that it's very cold hardy, so a light frost won't hurt it. Then we can go out and start harvesting our kale in about 25 or 30 days, so that's pretty quick to be able to get some fresh greens, and I'm telling you, you better get used to eating kale because once it starts growing, it's going to put out greens all year long. Spring mornings, when the weather is crisp, warmer, and wetter, you may also notice that slug damage will start to increase, and they will absolutely love all those fresh, young, tender shoots you plant. So that all that work doesn't go to waste, let me show you what I do to keep the damage to an absolute minimum. While longer grass is great for frogs and toads, I like to keep the area immediately around my beds clear. This will give the slugs nowhere to hide, and the birds that feed on them will easily find and eat these slippery creatures. You can also set small slug traps at the edge of your plot, not right in the middle of the leafy lettuce to attract slugs, but close to the edge so that you can catch them when they get into the garden. Just put in a small mold, leaving a little lip so the beetles don't fall in, then fill it with beer, a bit wasteful, but you know, slugs can die a happy death. That was today's video, vegetable lovers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and that it will almost make you run to harvest. And getting an early harvest will help you build a momentum that will encourage you to keep growing, and motivated. When your tomatoes and everything else are ready, you will have the energy, the enthusiasm, the drive to see it through and get those delicious harvests of tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, so those early, fast-growing crops can actually make you more likely to harvest tomatoes. Simply because they will motivate you and encourage you to keep going. It's always nice to catch those early vegetables, and when you have radishes really early, you think, wow, that tastes really good, but it's just a little appetizer before some of the other tastier things that come later in the season, and at the end of the season you'll be really proud of yourself looking at all your harvest.